Hey there, road warriors. Welcome back to Highway Hacks, the podcast where we tackled the toughest challenges of the trucking industry. I'm your host, Penny, and boy, do I have a journey for you today. Last month, I made my first international run. I loaded a trailer full of automotive parts in Michigan, and I was headed north to Toronto. Simple, right? Wrong. I got to the Canadian border, and I realized I had no idea what I was doing. I had paperwork I'd never seen before. The customs officer asked me questions I didn't understand. There was something about an e-manifest and PAPS stickers, a fast card. I was standing at the booth looking like I'd never driven a truck in my life. Thank goodness I had an experienced driver next to me who whispered, "Just answer honestly and don't volunteer extra information." But I'm thinking, there's gotta be a better way to prepare for this. So I decided episode 18 was going to be all about border crossing, and I wanted to bring in someone who actually knows the rules, not just from a driver's perspective, but from the authorities' perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Border Barney. Barney is the head of customs here at the port of entry, and he's got over 20 years of experience helping and questioning truck drivers. Barney, welcome to Highway Hacks.
Thanks for having me, Penny. I'm excited to be here. And just so your listeners know, I'm speaking in my personal capacity today, sharing general knowledge about border crossing. Nothing I say is official customs policy. That can change, but I can definitely help drivers understand how this all works.
I appreciate that disclaimer. So Barney, why do you think so many drivers are nervous about crossing the border?
Fear of the unknown, honestly. Drivers know highways. They know dispatch. They know their logbooks. But the border is this whole different world with its own language, its own rules, its own people asking questions. And if something goes wrong, the consequences are real. Fines, detention, even loss of your commercial driving privileges.
That's intimidating.
It is. But here's the truth. Most crossings are smooth if you're prepared. The drivers I see having problems are the ones who showed up unprepared, with missing documents, or who weren't truthful when asked questions.
Okay, so preparation and honesty. I like that. Let's start with the most confusing part for me, the paperwork. Barney, when I got to the booth, they were asking about my e-manifest. What exactly is that?
The e-manifest, also called ACE, which stands for Automated Commercial Environment, is basically your shipment data entered into U.S. Customs system before you arrive at the border. It's a digital manifest of what you're carrying.
So someone fills this out before I even get to the border?
Right. Usually your shipper or your freight broker, or sometimes the carrier's import-export department. They enter all the details, what goods you're carrying, where they're from, where they're going, the value, the classification. It's all in the system waiting for customs to review.
What information is on the e-manifest?
Details like the shipper's name and address, the consignee's name and address, a description of the goods, the quantity, the weight, the country of origin, the harmonized tariff code of the product, and the declared value.
Okay, so that sounds complicated. What's a harmonized tariff code?
Good question. Every product in international trade has a code, a HS code or HTS code, that classifies it for tariff and regulatory purposes. For example, automotive parts have different codes depending on what they are. Automotive fasteners are one code, automotive electrical components another. The code determines what duties, taxes, you might owe.
So customs uses that code to figure out if I'm paying the right tariff?
Exactly, and also to route your shipment to the right inspector. If it's food products, they might want to inspect it for agricultural compliance. If it's electronics, they want to make sure it's not counterfeit or restricted.
All right, so e-manifest or ACE is the digital entry. What about ACI? Is that different?
ACI stands for Automated Customs Information. That's the Canada side equivalent. If you're crossing into Canada, your broker or shipper files the ACI with Canada Border Services Agency. Similar concept, different system.
Got it. So when I'm crossing into Canada, I need an ACI. When I'm crossing into the US, I need an e-manifest. What else do I need paperwork-wise?
The customs invoice. This is a detailed document that shows the commercial transaction. Who's the exporter, who's the importer, what's being sold, how much is it worth.
Is that different from a regular invoice?
A regular invoice is between the shipper and the consignee. It's a sales document. A customs invoice is specifically formatted for border authorities. It has to include specific information in a specific layout. If you're crossing into Canada, there's a specific Canadian customs invoice form. If you're exporting from the US, there's a specific US export form.
Who prepares that?
Usually the exporter, or sometimes the freight broker. As the driver, you might not fill it out, but you need to have it in your cab. Customs will ask for it, and if you don't have it, you're going into secondary inspection.
What's secondary inspection?
We'll talk about that in detail later, but basically, it's when customs wants to look more closely at your cargo. It takes extra time.
Understood. So we've got e-manifest, ACI, customs invoice, PAPS parse information, PAPS parse stickers. That's the basics?
That's the basics for a commercial shipment. But there are also driver documents, your passport or Nexus card, your commercial driver's license, your vehicle registration, proof of insurance, your logbook. You need all of that too.
And if any of that is missing?
You're not crossing until you get it or you find an alternate route. Some drivers have tried to cross without a passport and gotten turned back 50 miles from the border. Major headache.
So the takeaway is make sure you have all the paperwork before you leave the shipper.
100%. And I recommend drivers ask their dispatcher or broker, what paperwork am I taking across? Has the e-manifest been filed? What's my release status? Don't just assume everything is ready.
Good advice. Now, who actually handles all this paperwork? You mentioned brokers. Is there a difference between a broker and a customs agent? Barney, help me understand who's who at the border. You've got customs agents, customs brokers, maybe other people?
Good question. Let me clarify. A customs agent is someone who works for the government, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBSA in Canada. We are uniformed officers. We inspect cargo, we question drivers, we determine if shipments are admissible or need to be detained. We work at ports of entry.
So you're the final authority.
Right. We enforce the law. A customs broker, on the other hand, is a private citizen or company licensed by customs authorities to facilitate trade. A broker prepares the paperwork, files the e-manifest, communicates with customs on behalf of importers and exporters. They know the regulations and they help clients comply.
So the broker is like a middleman.
Exactly. They're hired by the shipper or importer to handle customs procedures. They don't work for customs. They work for the business.
Is there tension between brokers and customs agents?
Sometimes. Brokers want to get their shipments through smoothly and quickly. Agents want to make sure nothing illegal or unsafe crosses the border. But most of the time, it's a professional relationship. Good brokers file accurate paperwork so inspections are quick. Bad brokers cut corners and then agents have to do extra work.
As a driver, do I interact with the broker?
Usually, no. Your dispatcher or the shipper interacts with the broker. The broker files the documents, you as the driver carry those documents and present them at the border. But if there's a problem, like missing paperwork or a discrepancy, your dispatcher might tell you, the broker is working on it, wait here.
What other people might I encounter at the port of entry?
There are secondary inspectors who do the detailed inspection if your shipment gets flagged. There are agriculture specialists if you're carrying anything food-related. There might be biosecurity officers if you're carrying plants or animals. And there are now canine officers with dogs trained to detect narcotics, explosives, or produce.
So basically, different specialists for different cargo.
Right. I might screen you at primary, determine you need a closer look, and then pass you to a specialist.
As a driver, what's my role in all of this?
Your role is to 1. Present your documents accurately and completely. 2. Answer questions truthfully. 3. Cooperate with inspections. 4. Not volunteer extra information or make jokes.
Why not volunteer extra information?
Because you might say something that flags a concern. For example, a driver once told me, yeah, I've got a box of parts in there that the consignee said to keep just in case. That triggered all kinds of questions about undeclared goods. If he just said, I'm delivering automotive parts from Michigan to Toronto, we would have been fine.
So I should answer what I'm asked, but not elaborate?
Correct. Be helpful, be honest, be brief.
What about jokes?
Don't joke about explosives, contraband, or illegal entry. I've heard every bomb joke and every I've got Canadians in the trailer joke, and it doesn't go well. One driver made a joke about a bomb and his vehicle got searched for 3 hours.
I can see that.
So, professional and straightforward. That's the approach that works.
All right. So we understand the paperwork and the people. What's actually the process when I roll up to the booth? Walk me through it, Barney. I'm in my Peterbilt. I'm approaching the inspection booth. What happens?
Okay. So first, you pull up to the lane directed by the traffic control officer. Usually there are multiple lanes, some for passenger vehicles, some for commercial vehicles. You'll be directed to a commercial lane.
Then what?
You pull up to the booth, the customs officer will gesture for you to stop, or there might be a red-green light. When they signal, you stop completely, keep your hands visible, turn off your engine.
Why turn off the engine?
Safety. We don't want vehicles rolling, and it shows you're cooperative.
Okay, engine off, hands visible. What next?
The officer will approach your window. Usually they'll say something like, "Good morning, citizenship?" Some officers might ask something different, but citizenship is common. You answer, United States or Canadian or Mexican, whatever applies.
Is citizenship the first question?
Often yes. Then they might ask, where are you coming from? Where are you going? What are you carrying?
So I should have prepared answers to those?
Absolutely. Know your origin, destination, and cargo description. Don't fumble with paperwork trying to find it. You should be able to say, I'm heading from Detroit to Toronto with automotive parts, without hesitation.
What if I don't know the exact description of the cargo?
Then you say, I have a bill of lading for that information, and you hand over the paperwork. But as the driver, you should at least know the general category of what you're carrying.
Okay, so I answer those questions. What happens next?
The officer will ask to see your documentation: license, passport or Nexus card, vehicle registration, insurance certificate. Hand it over.
At the same time?
Hand it over in order or however the officer asks. Just be smooth about it. Don't fumble or act nervous.
And while they're reviewing documents?
You wait. You don't get out of the cab unless asked. You don't reach into places unless directed. You basically sit still and wait.
What are they doing with the documents?
I'm scanning your license, checking if you have any flags in the system, verifying your passport information, checking your vehicle registration against the VIN. I'm also looking at the shipping documents, bills of lading, invoices, to see if they match the e-manifest that's already in my system.
How long does that take?
A minute or two if everything matches. Longer if there's a discrepancy.
What kind of discrepancy?
For example, the e-manifest says you're carrying 10,000 pounds of automotive fasteners, but your bill of lading says 10,500 pounds. That's a red flag. Or the e-manifest says the origin is Detroit, but the bill of lading says Grand Rapids. Those discrepancies trigger questions.
And if there is a discrepancy, what do I say?
You tell the truth. I don't know. My dispatcher loaded me this morning. The paperwork says X, but the documents might say Y. I have the original shipping documents if you need to check. Then we verify. Usually it's just a typo and we move forward.
So honesty is key.
Always. If we catch you in a lie, we're going to detain you and possibly fine you or report it to the carrier.
Okay, so everything matches, documents are good. Then what?
I might ask some follow-up questions. Is this your first time crossing? Are you bringing any personal items? Have you been to Canada, Mexico, US before? These are standard questions.
What are personal items?
Things you own. A jacket, a phone, a laptop, food, drinks. As long as they're for your personal use and reasonable quantity, they're fine.
What's not fine?
Large quantities of alcohol or tobacco over duty-free limits, weapons unless they're properly declared and you have permits, produce or meats you picked up locally, electronics you're planning to sell. Basically, don't try to import things to resell.
Can I bring a 6-pack of beer?
One standard drink equivalent per person per day is generally duty-free, but limits vary by country and can change. I'd recommend drivers check the current regulations before crossing. Better safe than sorry.
Okay, so after those questions?
If everything is clear, I'll usually say, have a safe trip or welcome to Canada, and I'll wave you through. Your release status is already in the system. You have been cleared for release, which means you can proceed.
And that's primary inspection?
That's primary. Most drivers sail through primary. They've got their paperwork, their story is straight, no red flags come up.
But sometimes they're secondary.
Right. If there are discrepancies, or your shipment is flagged in the system, or something in the paperwork doesn't match, or a canine alerts, I'll direct you to secondary.
What does that look like?
I'll say, please proceed to bay number 3 for additional inspection. You drive over there, and you're met by a secondary inspector. That's where the more detailed inspection happens.
What's detailed mean?
It could mean opening the trailer and doing a visual inspection of the cargo, or it could mean scanning with an X-ray machine or using detection equipment. If we're really concerned, we might unload the entire trailer.
How long does that take?
Could be 30 minutes for a quick visual, could be 4 hours if we're unloading. It depends on what we find.
And what if nothing's wrong?
Then you get cleared and you proceed with your delivery, but you're behind schedule.
That's frustrating.
It is, but it's the price of international trade. Customs has to check, and sometimes that means delays.
Is there a way to avoid secondary?
Yes, have correct paperwork, have your story straight, don't act suspicious, and participate in trusted shipper programs.
That's where security programs come in.
Exactly.
Okay, Barney, tell me about these security programs. I hear about C-TPAT and fast cards. What's the difference?
Great question. They serve different purposes. C-TPAT stands for Customs Trade Partnership Against Terrorism. It's a program where businesses, shippers, carriers, brokers, warehouses, voluntarily join and agree to implement security measures throughout their supply chain. In exchange, their shipments get priority processing.
So it's for companies, not drivers.
Right. If your company is C-TPAT certified, it shows us you take security seriously. Your paperwork is likely to be more accurate, your people are trained. That means faster processing.
Does that affect me as a driver?
Indirectly, if you're driving for a C-TPAT company, you might face fewer delays. But you also need to follow their security protocols. You can't leave your truck unattended, you need to secure your cargo, you might need additional training.
Okay, so C-TPAT is company level. What about FAST?
FAST stands for Free and Secure Trade. It's a joint program between the US, Canada, and Mexico. FAST is a trusted trader program, but specifically for carriers and drivers.
So drivers can enroll?
Yes, if you meet the criteria, good safety record, clean background check, good citizenship or residency status, you can apply for a FAST card.
What's a FAST card?
It's a credential that identifies you as a trusted trader. It looks like an ID card. When you cross the border with a FAST card, you go through a dedicated fast lane, which is faster and usually less intrusive than standard primary inspection.
How much faster?
Could be minutes instead of 15-20 minutes.
You still have to answer questions and present documents, but the inspection is streamlined.
What are the criteria for getting a fast card?
You need to be a citizen or permanent resident of the US, Canada, or Mexico. You need a valid passport or passport card. You need a valid commercial driver's license. You need to pass a background check, no serious criminal history. You need to apply at a port of entry and pay a fee, usually around $120 for a 5-year card.
And then I'm good to go?
For 5 years, yes. You present your fast card at the border and you get the expedited lane.
That sounds worth it.
It is if you're crossing regularly. If you cross once a year, maybe not. But if you're doing international runs frequently, definitely.
What about free trade zones?
Free trade zones, sometimes called foreign trade zones, are special areas where goods can be imported, stored, or processed with reduced tariffs or deferred duties. They're typically near ports of entry.
So if I deliver to a free trade zone, am I crossing the border?
Legally, you are crossing the border to get into the zone, but you might not be fully importing in the sense that duties aren't immediately owed. It depends on the specific zone and the goods.
Do I need to do anything different?
You still need the same documentation and to go through primary inspection, but your cargo might be treated differently in terms of tariffs and regulations.
Okay, so to summarize, C-TPAT is for companies, FAST is for drivers, free trade zones are geographic areas where tariffs might be reduced, correct?
That's right.
And then there's the question of what you can and cannot bring. Barney, I want to know, what am I absolutely not allowed to cross with? What are hard no's?
Okay, hard no's. Narcotics and controlled substances. Anything scheduled under the Controlled Substances Act cannot cross the border. If we find it, it's confiscated and you face federal charges. Weapons, firearms, explosives, certain knives, these are heavily regulated. Some can cross with proper permits, but if you don't have a permit, it's illegal. Counterfeit goods. If we determine your cargo is fake designer items, fake pharmaceuticals, anything fraudulent, it gets seized. Stolen goods. Anything reported as stolen. Biological or hazardous materials, unless properly manifested and packaged. This includes certain chemicals, fuel, batteries shipped improperly.
That's pretty clear. What about agricultural products?
Agricultural products are restricted. You can't just bring fresh produce, meat, or dairy across without agricultural permits and inspections. Beans, grains, fruits, vegetables, all regulated.
What if I stop at a farm stand and buy some tomatoes for the road?
If you're bringing them back into the US, you need to declare them. We check quantities and whether they're allowed. Usually, personal consumption amounts are okay, but commercial quantities or prohibited items like meat products get confiscated.
So if I buy a pound of tomatoes, that's probably fine.
Probably yes, but if you come through with 50 pounds of tomatoes, we're going to ask questions.
What about things like medicines?
Prescription medications that are yours are fine in personal quantities, but you should have them in original packaging with your name on it. If you show up with hundreds of bottles of a prescription drug, we're going to investigate.
What about over-the-counter stuff?
Generally fine, same rule, personal quantity and original packaging. If you're trying to import Advil to resell, that's not allowed without proper import licensing.
So the theme is personal items, reasonable quantities, original packaging, declared a fast. Cargo, you follow the manifests and declarations, correct?
Exactly right.
What if I make a mistake? What if I forget I have something?
Declare it. If you realize you have something undeclared, tell the customs officer before they find it. It goes a long way with leniency. If you lie and we find it, that's a different story.
How different?
Could be fines, could be detention, could be criminal charges depending on what it is. For most minor infractions, a warning. But if it looks intentional, we escalate.
So honesty is the policy?
Always.
All right, Barney, I want to throw some real scenarios at you because I know listeners are wondering about these things.
Fire away.
Scenario 1. I'm crossing from Detroit to Toronto with my broker's paperwork. I get to primary and the officer says my release status is conditional. What does that mean and what do I do?
Conditional release means customs has some concern, but we're not stopping you outright. Usually it means we want to inspect, or we want some additional information, or we want you flagged for possible follow-up downstream. You'll either go to secondary for inspection, or you'll be waved through with a caveat that your shipment might be inspected further down the road.
Down the road?
By Canadian customs or at your final destination. So your entry is conditional on meeting certain terms. Usually it's fine, but there's a flag on the record.
Scenario 2. My dispatcher tells me that my company is not C-TPAT certified, but we want to be. What should we do?
Apply. It takes time and effort. You have to document your security practices, train your staff, get audited, but it's worth it if you're doing regular cross-border commerce. Go to the CBP website. There's an application process. Get your management involved.
Scenario 3. I'm crossing into Mexico for the first time. I don't speak Spanish. Will the customs officer speak English?
At major ports of entry, likely yes. Mexican customs officers at the US border are used to English-speaking drivers. But I'd recommend learning key phrases. Tengo los papeles aquí. I have the papers here. ¿Qué necesita? What do you need? Basic stuff. And definitely have a phone translator app if you get nervous.
Scenario 4. I have a fast cart that I left it at home. Can I still cross?
Yes, you can cross as a standard driver. You just won't get the expedited lane. But you'll be identified in the system as a fast participant, and we'll process you accordingly. Just tell the officer your fast card is at home. Don't try to fake it.
Scenario 5. My broker told me the e-manifest was filed, but when I get to the border, the officer says there's no record. What went wrong?
Either the broker filed it for a different shipment, or it hasn't processed into the system yet, or there's a data entry error. The officer will ask you for the reference number. Your broker should have given you one. You might have to wait while we contact the broker, or you might have to pull over and have the broker refile. It's frustrating, but it happens.
How can drivers prevent that?
Get the filing confirmation from the broker before you leave the shipper. Ask for the reference number, verify the shipment details, know what your release status is supposed to be. Don't just assume the broker filed it correctly.
Scenario 6. I'm stopped at secondary and the officer wants to unload the entire trailer. I'm concerned about time and product safety. Can I refuse?
Legally, you cannot refuse, but you can ask the inspector to prioritize products that are sensitive to temperature or damage. Most inspectors are reasonable. They'll try to minimize damage. But if we have reason to believe there's contraband or a safety issue, we're unloading. It's the law.
That's tough.
It is, but it's rare, and most unloads happen because something already seems off. If your paperwork is correct and your cargo matches the manifest, we usually don't need to unload.
Last one. I've crossed the border dozens of times with no issues, but today at primary, the K9 alerts on my truck. What's happening?
The K9 is trained to detect narcotics, explosives, and certain agricultural products. If it alerts, we're going to secondary to investigate. It could be a false positive, maybe someone sat in your truck before you picked it up and had residue on them. Or maybe something legitimate is triggering it. We investigate. Most of the time, it's nothing, but we have to check.
All right, Barney, one final question. If I follow all the advice you've given, honest answers, correct paperwork, no contraband, good attitude, am I going to be fine?
99% of the time, yes.
Customs' job is not to make your life hard, it's to keep the border safe.
If you're a legitimate commercial driver with legitimate cargo, you're going to be fine. The people we worry about are the ones trying to hide something or who are reckless with safety or who are dishonest.
Then I think drivers can feel pretty confident.
They should. This process works because most people follow the rules.
Well, friends, there you have it. Episode 18 of Highway Hacks, Navigating the Port of Entry. Today, Border Barney helped us decode international border crossing. We learned the paperwork, e-manifest, ACE ACI, customs invoices, PAPS parse stickers. The people, customs agents versus customs brokers. The process, primary inspection, secondary inspection, what officers are looking for. Security programs, C-TPAT, fast cards, free trade zones. The rules, what you can and cannot bring across. And the underlying theme, honesty, preparation, and respect for the process. Crossing the border is not something to fear if you're ready. Know your paperwork, know your cargo, answer honestly, be polite, and don't try to sneak anything. That's it. A huge thanks to Border Barney for sharing his expertise and his patience with some of our trickier questions. Barney, you're a legend.
Thanks, Penny. Happy to help. And drivers, safe travels out there.
If you're preparing for your first border crossing or your first time in a new country, I've put some resources in the show notes. A primary inspection checklist, a list of current tariff codes, links to the fast card application, and contact info for major ports of entry. Also join the Highway Hacks community. Share your border crossing stories, ask questions, help each other out. That's what this is all about. If this episode was helpful, please leave a review, subscribe, and share it with a fellow driver who's nervous about crossing. I'm Penny, and I'll see you down the road. Stay safe, stay honest, and don't forget your passport.